Hello, welcome to the Amazing Nerdiverse. I'm Jeff Grant.
I'm Steven Dugert.
We'll talk about the return of the Arrowverse shows. I'm really excited to see most of these turn. First of all, it hasn't come back yet, but Legends of Tomorrow, which this is interesting because I thought I originally heard that because Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl were like switching around. Mm-hmm. Like I heard that it was going to be Legends of Tomorrow was going to finish out its run, and then Supergirl was going to come back. Mm-hmm. But I think they either reversed that or I was mistaken in that. So, because Supergirl came back already. But Legends of Tomorrow, when it does come back, and that's what annoying because now I have to wait like 8 weeks or whatever, however long it is, to get that show back. Because when it comes back, mm-hmm. Constantine is coming to the show. Matt Ryan, mm-hmm. Spoiler alert, he appeared on the Wave Rider in the last episode before the season... mid-season finale. Mm-hmm. Like they're coming back on the Wave Rider and he's just like Sarah Lance and he's just kind of just fucking around with a cigarette or something. There's new pictures of him on board the Wave Rider and stuff. I'm really excited about that. Wentworth Miller's still sticking around a little bit as Leonard Snart. Mm-hmm. He's going to be around for a couple more episodes, but he's announced that he's going to be leaving the Arrowverse.
Does he just not want to do it anymore?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer. Because they like him as that character. They've done a lot with him. Made him a hero and all that stuff. Like, mm-hmm. the version he is now is the truly heroic version from Earth X. Mm-hmm. They have said that he's going to make his last appearance on The Flash. What I would like for them to do... I mean, there's always the option of him coming back somewhere down the line. Mm-hmm. But right now, he's stepping away, and he's not going to be a regular, recurring character mm-hmm. anymore. Same thing with Malcolm Merlyn, mm-hmm. who, these are guys that were like pretty big roles. Like, I mean, especially Malcolm Merlyn in season 1 of Arrow. Mm-hmm. He was there, like, he was the whole season 1 big bad. Mm-hmm. He was gone for a while, came back at the end of season 2, and then became a regular character going forward for that show, and then Legends of Tomorrow as well. Mm-hmm. So, like, he's been around for a while, and it's not like he's not a main cast member of any of these shows. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting. And then same with... Wentworth Miller as Leonard Snart. He was never a starring member of the cast or anything until Legends. He was a main member until like throughout the first season. But yeah, he's going to be leaving. But he did say his last appearance is going to be on an episode of The Flash. Okay. But maybe give it a year or two and then bring him back and do the Rogues for mm-hmm. a full season. Have him lead the Rogues. With other, like, maybe whenever Legends of Tomorrow finishes out its run, mm-hmm. I think Flash is probably going to outlast that show.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Favorite show.
Yeah. I hope Flash outlasts all of them, but mm-hmm. I'd like to see Flash and Supergirl kind of ride it on through to the end. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, where is this universe going to end? Like, I don't want it to, but...
Well, the universe won't necessarily end. They'll just get to a point where, like, all right, we're ending the show, and they kind of give you, like, a wink, like, they're going off to do more adventures.
Yeah, because the world is going to continue on with whatever shows stick around, because we've yet to see it. We've yet to see one of these shows get canceled at this point.
Or on Legends of Tomorrow, they could just show us what happens in the future with all of them.
Could always do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
They've done so much on those shows, it's incredible. But, I just want to see the Rogues, full-on Rogues, mm-hmm. like, and for a season, like, story arc. That's what I want to see eventually.
The Too Much 12?
Yeah. All right, and one last Legends Tomorrow thing. So, if you've seen the crossover, we're down a man on Legends of Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I won't say who it is, but someone left the show, and so there's a open slot on the Legends as far as, like, if they're going to bring in another cast member.
I'll do it.
Well, they'll keep that in mind, but until then, they've got a guy to keep your spot warm.
Is it me?
No. Kanan Lonsdale is going to be boarding the Wave Rider as a series regular for a little while as Wally West, Kid Flash.
Good.
So that's cool. They've never had a speedster on their team. They could use one. Mm-hmm. Really could have used one last season when they were fighting Reverse Flash. But Wally West, Kid Flash, is going to be hanging around. I think he was on the first episode of this season. because they went their separate ways for a little bit. And Citizen Steel, Nate, was like just fighting crime in Central City. I think Barry was gone during that time too, so he was helping out over there. He was fighting, and him and Kid Flash were teaming up a bit. So that's nice. They have a little connection there. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Love it so much. So yeah, that's cool. So Kid Flash is gonna be he's gonna be a legend. It's nice though, because like Wally West is a huge important character, and seeing him leave the show is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But at least he's involved somewhere in the DC TV universe.
True.
All right, so now to a show that actually did come back, Supergirl. Mondays, keeping the same time slot for now, and then I think it's going to finish out its run, and then Legends of Tomorrow is going to take its place. They came back with the Legion of Superheroes introduced. Like, we've already seen Mon-El last season. Then when he came back, Saturn Girl came with him from the future. And now Brainiac 5 was introduced. So that was really cool to see those three and everything. Brainiac 5 is interesting. He's a fun character. I like the way they introduced him, and I like the stuff they've done with him in the 2 episodes that have aired. It took me a second to get used to the look, because it's all paint. And at first, because it's mostly blue paint, with little like splotches of like purpley in him. And looking at it, the purple stuff looks like it's the blue paint like rubbing off. So it looked like it was a really bad face paint thing for a while, until I kind of settled into what they were going for with it. And then a crazy like white Einstein wig almost. But I don't think that's what the character looked like in the comics, but whatever. He's fine. I like the way they've used him and written him and stuff. So, and then last week's episode, or this week's episode, was cool. It was significant because they had to go to Fort Ross, which is the prison where all the people were coming from in season 1 and stuff. And it's inhabited. It's currently in orbit around a blue star, which means that there's not a yellow sun for Kara to get her powers, so she wouldn't be powered. And also, for some reason or another, there was something that killed anyone with a Y chromosome, so no men could accompany them. So it was cool. So Kara, Saturn Girl teamed up, and then they also brought Livewire and Psy with them, 2 villains, and that was kind of fun seeing, all women team up and like some cool characters, because I've liked Livewire a lot, how they've used her and stuff, and she was great in the episode. All right, you haven't seen Supergirl yet, so that's why I was kind of running through that real quickly. But Arrow, you did say you're caught up on. As far as like tonight, as we're recording this, is Wednesday, so the new episode airs tonight. We haven't seen that yet. We saw last week's. What do you think about last week's episode?
Give me a quick.
Okay, well, I'll just
everyone on the team pissed off.
Yeah, they've been super pissy.
Everyone's always up his ass.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Am I trying to do everything?
Yeah, it's original Team Arrow now. Because Diggle is injured. He's got that, what is it called? The trimmer in his hand and stuff after the explosion at the end of season 5 on the island. I thought this was a great return from break episode. Thought it was just a really solid episode. Like, I've kind of, Arrow can be kind of hit or miss sometimes, but I always love it. It was it's the longest show. I've always been a fan from the beginning, and I still love it. But I just was really watching. I was like, I really like this episode as it was going. And there was some great. It was, I believe, I can't remember 100%, but I believe it was directed by James Bamford, their stunt coordinator, who's directed a bunch of episodes up at this point. But it had some really great action sequences, like that whole scene where Oliver was single-handedly fighting everybody in that warehouse, and it was like that kind of little trench that he was going down.
I like that.
Fighting Vigilante and stuff. It was some good stuff in that. You get those long single-shot action sequences whenever James Bamford directs an episode. But we're starting to see now these 2 separate teams forming. You see, original Team Arrow with Diggle and Felicity and Oliver. And then this new branch off where Wild Dog and Mr. Terrific and
I don't know
Black
what
Canary
makes them
going
think
off.
that they're going to just be the best of friends and not have to resort to anything that Oliver's had to.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same, bro.
Yeah.
Eventually something's going to pop up, and one of you is going to have to keep a secret from the rest of them to do A, B, and C.
Yeah. But what I'm interested in is because, this new team, I wonder what they're going to call themselves.
Team...
Here's
nose up in the air.
There's a new comic coming out called The Terrifics, where Mr. Terrific is part of it, and I can't remember who the other characters are in The Terrifics. I'll look it up in a second. But what if they call themselves The Terrifics?
They should?
Yeah. Because, Mr. Terrific's a silly enough name. And they at least established it in a way that works for me. Mm-hmm. Because, that's it's really what it was in the comics. Where he named himself after a wrestler that he loved. Mm-hmm. So, maybe they do. Okay, so this is the images that I've seen. Looks like Plastic Man.
Plastic Man. Oh, you're talking about for the thing.
For the Terrifics. Oh, God, what's that name? What's that dude's name?
I don't know.
The guy that's, made up of, 4 different...
Metamorpho.
Yeah, Metamorpho. Plastic Man, Mr. Terrific,
I'd kill myself if I was Metamorpho.
And Phantom Girl. That's the team of the Terrifics.
Okay.
But it's just a name. It's a brand new comic series, which good to see him getting a new comic series. I like the character Mr. Terrific, so that's cool. I don't know, maybe they'll call it that. Who knows? I just thought of that because I just saw the other day that they're making this new series.
I'm ready for the what's her name? Black Siren to go ahead and die. I've about had it up to here. I
don't think she's going to. I think eventually she's going to redeem herself and she's going to become the Black Canary again.
I don't need... just
something's going to happen to Dinah Drake eventually.
Why?
Because it's got to have to.
But why is it gonna have to? Why can't she just be the one?
Here's the thing, dude. In the comics, Black Canary is one of my favorite characters. Mm-hmm. They've never quite nailed her on Arrow or any other shows other than outside of animated stuff. Mm. They've never really nailed the character for me. They didn't really do it in Smallville or Birds of Prey or any of that stuff. But
really, Birds of Prey?
No,
didn't stick the landing.
Such a great show, but that's the one single fault.
The Inhumans of the DC universe.
Pretty much. But they did some interesting stuff in that, though. I didn't watch a lot of it, but I know some of the things they did. Alfred was in it. I think you saw her as Batgirl, Oracle, at one point. Costume looked all right for early 2000s TV show.
All right.
I don't know. I know you hate bad guys.
What do you mean?
You just hate bad guys.
Well, which one?
All of them.
Not all of them.
You do. You just don't get drama. You don't get how stories work.
No, I don't.
You want to see everything work out for everybody and everyone be fine all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we talked about this on the podcast. They actually shot a version
I saw it.
I know. We haven't talked about it on the podcast, so I tweeted it out. They actually shot a version of that It scene.
I loved it.
Where everything ended up happy for everyone.
Yeah, I was like, good.
It's just hilarious. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's all I want to see.
Speaking of something exactly what you're talking about, I also tagged you in that thing on Facebook today with, it was like how Infinity War should end.
Yeah.
With Ant-Man in Thanos' head and just...
yeah. Solve all the problems.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
I got all the great ideas, man.
Yeah. Looks like it.
Just let me do it.
People in Hollywood are taking your advice. They shouldn't, because it's a horrible route to go down.
I like the Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
There's a villain.
Mm-hmm.
I like...
But you hate Negan. You hate Black Canary.
Mm-hmm. Black Canary's not a villain, though.
Black Siren.
Yeah, she's just annoying.
I like things about that version of the Laurel character better than the original, because it was a rough go of it there for a while. She was finally starting to get cool, and then they killed her. Never had a great costume, though.
No.
I would like to see them redo a new costume for her if eventually Dinah dies, and then they make her the new Black Canary again.
Less buckles.
For sure, less buckles, less S&M-y kind of...
It's weird.
It was just an ill-advised costume design.
If you're going out to fight crime, that's going to take a while to put on.
Yeah. The weird thing is, they never did the fishnets. They never did the fishnets, which I can get that. Yeah, they're not going to do the fishnets. But then you go with the completely wrong, like, oh, the fishnets are like, oh, they're like over sexualized them. They go like all S&M like gimp wear, like she was just short of the gimp mask because they got that covered over on Gotham.
God, I'm steering clear of that. I saw like one little tweet of like, oh, are we finally gonna find out if Jerome's the real Joker?
Yeah,
I was like, is it not? I haven't watched any of it, but I just assumed.
I mean, it's dumb. It's like they do it as if he could be or whatever. Then they pull it back. It's like, but is he? He's like, I don't care enough. Just either say it's him or not, and just fuck off.
It has to be.
All right.
Why bother not?
All right, we're falling down the Gotham rabbit hole.
I mean, didn't they cut Homeboy's face off?
Yeah, they did.
What else do you need to do?
I don't know.
That's it.
I don't know. Anyway. See, but then again, you go into the giving Joker origin story.
Then why are you doing fucking Gotham?
I don't know. Joker works best without an origin story, or with if I have a history, I prefer it to be multiple choice kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and that I get in a way. I guess they're kind of doing that. Where is he Joker? Is he not? But the show's not. It doesn't quite have that nuance down that like really good, superhero writing has.
Or regular writing.
Yeah. Or like Barney and Friends writing. Is that what it's called? Barney and Friends? I know it was Barney
There
and
was
something.
Barney, and then they did, like... You know how there was, like, Justice League and then Justice League Unlimited?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Oh. Thanks for putting it in terms that I get.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
The Flash.
literally what I think it was.
Let's talk about The Flash now.
Right.
I'm excited that it's back. It's my favorite of all the shows.
Yeah, me too.
Of all the shows ever. Mm-hmm. But, first episode, Trial of the Flash. Mm-hmm. That was a... interesting one. Mm-hmm. Like Barry Allen is on trial for murder, and he was framed for killing Clifford DeVoe.
It's one of those things I hate. Like God,
situations like that.
There's no way he can just.
You can't outrun this problem,
Right. He can't just be like, no, guys. It's not. I mean, it's him, but it's not him.
That's what I like about this season is like they found a villain. They stopped doing speedster villains, and now there's a villain that you just can't. It's not all. It doesn't always come down to
villain stuff.
No, it works because he's a speedster, and I like that stuff. But now you're seeing the things you can do with a villain that's not a speedster, but he's on this like he's a equivalent or even a superior in as far as like the mind part of it, the smarts and the strategy, and that's what made him. What's made him such a cool villain. And he got killed off halfway through the season, like the body at least. He transferred bodies to that other guy, but that's really interesting. Like,
so do you think the same thing is going to kind of deteriorate this body at some point?
I don't know.
That's what I would assume. And then like he keeps having to like jump. Yeah. And then eventually you don't know where he is.
It's really interesting. I loved how like when he's about to go to the last court appearance or whatever, and he's about to go in and he just sees the new DeVoe, like in the new body, walk off into that room by himself.
It's like, this prick.
And he's like, give me a second. And he goes over there to talk to him. And he comes in and the guy doesn't even turn around and he says something to him and he knows he's there. I'm like, this guy has every move figured out. That's what's made this season so interesting.
I hate people like that.
Yeah.
Just so arrogant. Just, It's like, why don't I just kill you right now then? Yeah. Have you thought of that?
Well, now you see what happens when you go that route. Now you go to prison.
I guess.
I did love. I mean, spoiler for this episode if you haven't seen these episodes, but right there at the end when Iris just goes up and's like, she's gonna take care of this kind of thing. Like, I wanted him to just come out and say, I'm the Flash. Like, that's what I wanted to happen because that's what would may possibly save him in that situation. But he's not going to do that.
At first, I was a little worried about him going to prison, but he's fine. He's going to be fine.
He's all right.
He's got superpowers.
Yeah. Well, we're still on the first episode, but I did want to touch on that moment that they showed a new power essentially.
Yeah, where he kind
of stopped
like
time.
A little speed bubble type.
Yeah, like where he ran up there and stopped her, and he could talk to her, and she's moving as fast as he is in some weird way. It's like. It's really crazy, but yeah,
speed
I like how you described it. They're like a speed bubble.
Yeah,
Yeah, like where everything else is moving, but everyone's in that little proximity and moving so fast that they appear normal while everything else is all slowed down. That was really cool. It was just a cool emotional moment that like they had in like an instant.
No one else will know.
Yeah, I liked that. And then at the end, he's in his new prison cell at Iron Heights. The same cell that his dad was in. Henry Allen was there. You cried, didn't you?
Yeah.
You cried like a little bitch.
Of course I did.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh man, damn it. So good. And then the next episode I loved. This week's episode. The Elongated Man Rises. There's so much I love in this episode. First of all, you got the Elongated Man's like finally cementing himself as a hero in Central City. He saves the day at this bank robbery, blows up. Sometimes we were talking earlier about the visual effects for him. Sometimes it looks a little goofy, especially when he gets really big and stuff like that. But it kind of works with his
character, though.
But it works because the Elongated Man is a very cartoony character,
right?
And honestly, if I'm being honest, I feel like the persona that they're going with in this show might be more in line with Plastic Man than Elongated Man. Yeah. I don't know why they made that decision.
Probably because they're not going to do Plastic Man.
I don't know why.
That'd be my assumption.
They straight up in the first episode, he said Plastic Man, so I don't know why they didn't. But anyway, I wish they would have gone with Plastic Man, because Elongated Man is a character that has some very serious storylines and stuff in the comics.
Well, maybe they'll kind of
get him there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. But I've loved what they've done with him so far. Really, really happy to see him get the costume.
Yeah.
And
it's a good costume.
Yeah, it is. And when I first saw I was telling you this, when I first saw the images of it, I didn't know how I felt about it. But when I saw it in action, I liked it. I kind of dig the goggle thing. It's like goggles without glasses. Yeah. It's kind of like a mix between like goggles with no lenses and like a domino mask. Kind of works. Yep. I'm used to him not having a mask.
Squarest jaw.
Yeah, he does. He has a great chin for heroics. And I loved when he got the suit at the end and he's like groovy. Because I was like, oh, he does kind of have a little bit of a Bruce Campbell chin going. But I will love that every which way. Like whenever someone gets something cool, they just say groovy. I love it. So I had that stuff, and at the end, like, I like him talking to the press and like hitting up people. Do you like shrimp? And stuff like that. And like he's like talking about his powers. It's like I don't just stretch. He's going on. He's like I elongate, man. And I was like, that's how they came up with it.
Like, oh, I don't want that.
I don't want that to stick. Like,
nah,
it's gonna stick. But not only that, in this episode, that was enough, for me to show up alone. But also the return of the Trickster, not the Mark Hamill version, but Trickster Jr. Was it Axel Walker?
I don't know.
I think that's his name. Which they did some really cool stuff with him in season 1, and they did the whole I am your father thing with Mark Hamill, which was awesome. I was really hoping to see Mark Hamill show up in the episode. He didn't, but what was really cool is who did show up
is the other lady.
Prank.
Yep. From
the original 90s Flash show. She was his henchwoman in that, and they established in this universe they were together. She was like his partner in crime and everything, and they had a kid together. And I love that, incorporating that. The only thing I love that idea that he was the prankster the trickster back in the day, and he had prank and all that stuff, and they use all those pictures and stuff from the old Flash show. The only thing I'm like, well, they didn't have a Flash though back then.
Did they?
They had these costume superheroes, but they didn't, or supervillains, but not superheroes. I don't know.
Jay Garrick.
Yeah. Well, he was never established in that universe.
Nah, don't worry about it.
But maybe he was under the radar.
Nah, don't worry about it.
Maybe Henry Allen was him.
Yeah, it'll be alright.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But also, so not only do you have Elongated Man and Trickster and Prank, you also have Goldberg. I was really excited to see him in this episode.
Yeah.
I like Goldberg.
I see that.
As a wrestling fan of the late 90s, early 2000s, like that was the era when Goldberg was king. It's kind of funny. I always love seeing wrestlers in like acting and other stuff. It's always just kind of I always get a kick out of that for me. But I always really particularly like wrestlers in superhero related stuff and comic book related stuff because I feel like they really fit in that world.
It suits it.
Yeah, it kind of works. Like, I mean, the wrestlers come from a world of like pageantry and the over-the-top stuff and the colorful costumes and stuff like that it just naturally translate into the comic book television show or comic book movie medium.
Yeah.
But, you know, the wrestlers also have, like, the physique that comic book characters are drawn with. So it makes sense to cast them in those type of roles when you can, like Drax, like with Batista and stuff like that. But Goldberg, they didn't cast as like like Atom Smasher. Edge was Atom Smasher in season 2 of Flash.
Oh, was he?
Season 2 premiere, Edge was in there. Yeah, like stuff like that. But Goldberg wasn't a costume character. He was somebody that actually had a kind of cool, like, emotional tie to Henry Allen. Like, Henry Allen's... I like that it was like, oh, he saved his life or whatever. I thought, like, he stopped him from getting shanked or something. But he just had, like, appendicitis or whatever, and he had to cut out his appendix or whatever. I thought that was kind of interesting. But, you know, when Goldberg comes in and saves him and everything, I was waiting for it. It didn't happen. And then later when Goldberg's getting attacked and... or Big Sir, I should say. I like that. That's a great name. And, like... and Barry comes to help him, just waiting for him to spear somebody.
Did he?
He didn't.
No. Well, he's going to be in next week.
Yeah. So 2 episodes of what I've heard from Goldberg tweeting. He said he was going to be in 2 episodes.
Going to spear anybody?
Hope so. Maybe they're saving the spear for episode 2.
Fear the spear.
Fear the spear. Just, who's next? If he doesn't say who's next, I'm going to stop watching The Flash.
What if Cisco opens up a breach and he spears someone through the breach?
Oh my God. That'll be amazing, and you never see Goldberg again.
The final spear.
He's getting inducted in the Hall of Fame this year.
He opens up a breach into the sun, and he spears him into the sun.
That's the greatest. That's the best spear ever.
He spears the Reverse Flash into the sun.
Let's see Roman Reigns do that shit. Yeah, Goldberg getting inducted in the Hall of Fame this year. He's like the big guy of this year. All right. So one last show. Any final thoughts on The Flash? Oh, the very last scene. We talked about it off mic, but we haven't talked about it on mic yet.
What?
The coffee shop, Jitters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The girl you said you think it's Barry's granddaughter?
I that's my theory.
That's your theory.
Yeah, because...
Have you read anything online?
No.
No.
I mean, no one knows for sure who she is. But, like, for me, looking at it, just based on what we've seen her twice now. She was in the crossover. She was there at Barry's wedding. And then she's here now at
just kind of meeting...
Just hanging out Jitters. And she's talking to Cisco and
the Elongated Man.
And she's paying for their coffee and stuff. And I like her a lot.
She just seems like really excited to see them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're those guys.
Yeah. I love that.
Grandpa's friends.
I can't tell you how happy I am that Vibe is now like a thing. Like he's Vibe now. Like I love that. He's not always Vibe, but he's Vibe when they need him to be.
There was like a split second in this episode where I was like, well, why don't Vibe and Killer Frost just go and stop Trickster? And then they did, and then they got caught, and I was like, okay, perfect.
I loved when they're like, she's like, I just can't turn it on. And they just yell the name of her childhood bully. And she just...
I feel like this is going to be a thing, and I like it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, guys, it doesn't really work that way. I got to be scared or angry.
Yeah, because they did that once before, and they yelled at her, and so she's like, okay. And then this time, they just said one name, and it immediately triggered
I like that they play it for comedy.
Yeah. I hope that trend continues, too. Although I did notice this time, it was just her eyes. Because they were like, they're not going to do the whole makeup and wardrobe change just for them to walk out of the scene.
Yeah.
So, all right, finally, I want to talk about Black Lightning.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
I know you haven't seen it yet. You really should.
Okay.
Because it comes on right after Flash. And you don't like DVR shit. You just watch it live, right?
Yeah. Or on demand.
Oh, okay. You just keep watching it because Black Lightning is great so far. I love this show. Really, really strong start. Like some of these shows don't really always have the strongest start. Some of the pilots have been pretty good, not all of them. But this one, I thought it was a really strong start. I love the idea of this guy who used to be a hero.
Yeah. And
he walked away from that life, and now he's having to come back. First episode, his daughters get like kidnapped and like caught up in this whole like these like criminal element and stuff in this town.
And does Black Lightning have a certain set of skills?
Oh yeah, he does. What I love, and here's the like, I can continue talking about all the stuff I like. There's one thing I don't love, and it's the costume.
Really?
Like, the costume's okay, but it has this weird glowy kind of thing. And the reason...
I was about to bring up that I like the costume.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but I wish... Because in the episode, in the first episode, they showed old footage of him from like 9 years ago stopping a convenience store robbery, and he's in his old costume.
What's the old costume?
Pretty much the comic book costume. And like, I was like, I kind of like that better.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I like the goggles and I like the light up things on the chest.
I don't know. I just don't feel like it's necessary. But I guess it's more armor than his old costume was, and that was a thing. Like,
well, he's an older man now. He needs to.
Yeah, and you see some stuff like you definitely see it taking a toll on him in these first 2 episodes, and like you see flashbacks of why it didn't work out the first time when his daughters were really young and his wife, and like he was coming home and you just see him like in a bathtub, like bloodied and beaten and stuff, kind of like a Daredevil thing. Like every time you see,
sounds great.
Daredevil gets the shit kicked out of him every time he fights somebody. But yeah, Black Lightning is like that, like where he's always bloody and beaten and stuff like that and scarred, and his wife's like, we can't keep doing this kind of thing. And like something that they kind of start doing in the second episode is she talks about it like she calls it his addiction. She says like he's addicted to his powers and fighting crime and stuff like that, and she's starting to bug me. his ex-wife, she's his ex-wife now. They're not married anymore, but they're starting to kind of rekindle. And now this whole thing with his daughters getting kidnapped, and she's like, go save them. And she knows what that means when she tells him that. And then you see Black Lightning in a new costume. He has the new costume because he has his own Alfred in the show.
Where's my super suit?
Woman!
My evening's in danger. They got to do that. Who'd win in a fight, Black Lightning or Black Panther?
I don't know. It'd be a good fight. Black Lightning has some crazy powers.
Oh, yeah?
Can
he do it without the suit? Is the suit part of the...
No. That's why like all the light up stuff of the suit is unnecessary to me.
Huh.
That's why I don't really like it as much. Because like the old suit is just like the old like kind of like classic like superhero suit. Like not much padding or protection as far as you can tell. It's just surveillance footage. But yeah, it just all seems way too unnecessary. And that's why I'm not as big on the costume. It also looks too bulky. Like I feel like it's way too bulky for him to move around all that much. But he does move a bit in the second episode. You see it put to use in an interesting way. He gets the new suit from he's got a guy. He's got like his own Alfred. James Remar.
Okay.
From he was Dexter's dad on Dexter.
Okay.
Like his father in all the flashback scenes. He is like his Alfred. Jefferson Pierce's Alfred. He's a guy named Peter Gamby. And I really like how they're doing stuff with that character so far. Be interested to see where that stuff's going. I think it's going to go in a direction. I don't want to say what direction, but I think I'm seeing, the breadcrumbs of where that character's going. Oh, see episode 2. I was speaking of the physical stuff. I love this scene in episode 2 when he suits up again. Because like the first 2 episodes, it's kind of frustrating because he doesn't want to be Black Lightning anymore. Then at the end of the episode, he has to be in the first episode to save his daughters. Second episode, I just did it to save our daughters. Now I'm not doing it again. And at the end of the episode, I have to do it again. Like it's that. And I think it might be that pattern for a couple episodes, and I don't necessarily love that. Like I like that being the pattern, like the established thing in the first episode, but I don't want to see that every week where he's trying to quit every week and has to get dragged back into it. But when he does in the second episode, he just storms up to this building where these gang members are hanging out. And it is awesome. It's like one of those like Luke Cage kind of scenes.
Did you just beat the shit out of everybody?
Yeah. He's like walking up to the building and the doorman's like, the Black Lightning, my man. And he's like, where's I think the guy's named Lala. Is the guy he's looking for. He's like, oh, penthouse suite. He's like, thanks, brother. And like he goes in and like I just love shit like that. And the elevator guy's like, oh, it's Black Panther. Black Lightning. God damn it, I can't say that. He's like, oh, it's Black Lightning.
I mean, it's coming out next month.
Yeah, I know.
So it's fair.
We've talked a lot about it too, everything. But he's like, oh, and he's like, oh, come on, man. And he's like gonna hold the elevator for him. And he's like, no, I'll take the stairs. I'm just getting back into this. I need all the exercise I can get. So he's going upstairs and finding people. I love the fight scenes because every time he punches or kicks somebody, there's a little spark of lightning.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool. It looks really cool when he's fighting and stuff.
So if he didn't have the costume on, would there still be a... Okay, gotcha.
Like, he uses his powers, like, once or twice, I think in the pilot episode, without having, you know, a costume on or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. And he's a really powerful character. Mm-hmm. And it's like one of those things where, like, when the Flash first happened, you're like, well, what can they really do with a guy that can run fast? And you start seeing all the things he can do. Black Lightning's going to be the same kind of character. He can't just shoot lightning like the Emperor, which he does, and punch people with lightning stuff. There's so much he can do. I do want to point out, friends of the show, I'll call them, because Ashley Victoria Robinson was on a episode of this podcast before, and Jason Inman, they have a podcast called Geek History Lesson, and if you want to learn more about Black Lightning, you can check out their episode of that.
We have friends?
Yeah. Yeah. We have some people out there in the podcast world that we interact with
that don't hate us.
Yeah, that don't hate us.
That don't leave us one-star reviews.
I've been listening to a lot of that podcast. I love Geek History Lesson, and they always time their episodes of like, they had a Runaways episode when Runaways came out, and they have a Black Lightning episode. This is out. Probably gonna have a Black Panther episode next month. Stuff like that.
Right.
So,
because they're smart.
Yeah. So, like, I definitely, if you want to learn a little more about Black Lightning, check out that episode of the podcast. I learned so much. There was one instance where I think I might have learned a little too much, because like now I know where one character might be going. But I will say, and finally, do you know anything about Black Lightning's daughters?
No.
I mean, it's.
I thought that his son or grandson was Static Shock or something. Is that not it?
No, this is something that they discussed this on the Geek History Lesson.
Okay.
And it's one of those things. It's a very common misconception that Static Shock is not related to Black Lightning.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where people always say that. He's not. And they even address it in the comic book. Someone's like, Static Shock, is that your son? He's like, no, I'm not related to him at all. And like what it turns out is Static Shock is a big fan of Black Lightning.
Gotcha.
And he like designed his costume after him and stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
I get it now.
But Static Shock...
That was a good cartoon.
Yeah. I guarantee you Static Shock is going to appear in this season of the show.
Really?
I think he is.
Okay.
I mean, because they always introduced, I don't know, maybe not this season, because they got some stuff to establish, but season 2 is, I guarantee you he's going to appear in this show. I don't know 100% sure about rights, because I know Static Shock was originally a different company, and DC bought them, and then like there's always these rights issues with these Milestone comics, and there's like a whole Milestone universe, similar to like, I can't remember who owned it, but like characters like The Question and like Blue Beetle were owned by a different company at one point. But I think we're going to see Static Shock show up eventually, which would be nice. Talking about doing a Static Shock show, and then I think at one point, was it Jaden Smith was wanting to star in it or something? And I was like, I'm not interested.
No thanks.
Yeah. But anyway, so if you don't know anything about his daughters, in the comics, they become superheroes themselves. So his older daughter, Anissa, becomes Thunder.
Okay.
His younger daughter, I think Jennifer, becomes Lightning.
Okay.
And Thunder has like increased strength. Like she can basically increase her density to where like, you know, she can even like withstand like bullets and like she can't move. She's kind of like a Juggernaut-y type character at that point where she can't knock her down or anything like that. And she can create shockwaves by stomping on the ground and stuff like that. And then his other younger daughter becomes Lightning. She pretty much has the same powers as him. And they did those are big characters in the comics where like he has these rules of like, all right, you graduate college. As long as you do that, you can do what you want to do. So like his older daughter graduates college and then the next day becomes a vigilante. She's like, I could be a doctor, but I'm going to be a vigilante and stuff like that. So I'm really surprised how fast they're doing that with the older daughter, because they start setting that up in these first 2 episodes, and they've already released an image of her in the costume. Like, I think episode 3, Thunder's gonna be in the costume.
I guess so. I mean, why not just get to it?
Yeah, and I'm not really. I'm okay with discussing that here on the podcast without really considering a spoiler, because the picture's everywhere on the internet.
Okay.
Like I keep seeing it pop up all over Facebook of Thunder in costume. So that's why I'm bringing it up here. Oh, one last note. As far as where this show is taking place, what Earth, I think it could be Earth 1. Doesn't have to be, but it could be. Of the 2 episodes I've seen so far, the only thing that they've specifically talked about or pointed out is there's one scene where it's a news report, and I really like the thought behind it, but also there's the added thing of maybe like. They say something's like, how come, with all these other, crime fighters in these other cities, you call them heroes? But, this guy here, he's a black one, you call him a vigilante or something like that, or a criminal or whatever. And I can't remember the exact line, but they point out that there's other superheroes out there, so this could be set in that world, in the
They
Earth
said
1.
on The Flash that world is Earth Prime. Or whatever.
What?
In The Flash.
Their world is Earth Prime? Yeah, Earth Prime, Earth 1. Yeah. It's just the main Earth. I mean, the main Earth is where Legends, Flash, and
it's like the one.
Arrow,
Like
and Constantine, and Vixen, all that stuff is on Earth Prime.
It's a little arrogant, don't you think? So everyone else are like, we're number 1.
Yeah. I always think about that, like whenever they visit a new Earth.
Because to everyone else, they'd be like, well, we're Earth 1.
Yeah.
No matter who, there's all different ones, but each one would be like, no, we're number 1, fucker.
You're Earth 19.
Yeah, how's that feel now, bitch?
Yeah.
I flew up into space and I looked. I didn't see a goddamn number on it.
Yeah. And I can do that.
I can do it. Can you do that? No, you just run around and shoot bows and arrows.
You guys are assholes. All right. Speaking of other Earths, I will say I did watch the animated Freedom Fighters, The Ray, the new animated show on the CW Seed about the Ray, the character that was introduced in the crossover. Pretty good. I like it. But
speaking of Ray,
yeah,
one of my top favorite moments from the Arrowverse crossover was when Eobard is about to cut into Supergirl.
Yeah,
and he's like, What's wrong here? I can't. And everyone's like, just do it. He's like, I'm trying. And you zoom in, it's the Atom. He's like holding the knife.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And then later he rides a T-Sphere.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That was cool.
That's like Ant-Man on a Hawkeye's arrows. That's what that is. Like him on a T-Sphere is awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I will okay. So I'll just say that the Ray, I liked it, but it was too short. I feel like these animated shows are too short. They're like 6 episodes, and each episode's like 3 to 5 minutes, and they're like really, there's not enough. And like, because of how long it takes between seasons, like the end season 1 with a cliffhanger, I feel like they never really did anything, I liked, I don't know. I liked what they did. They set it up, but he's just barely the Ray at the end of the first season. And I just really want to see them. I would have liked to have seen the first 2 seasons together or something, I guess. But you're starting to see that origin story that he talks about originally being from Earth 1 and then coming over to Earth X and stuff like that. So it's cool so far. It's just frustrating when you get to the end and like, oh, that's it. Like, leave it open for a cliffhanger. It's like, all right, well, great. I watched like a 20-minute thing and then now I got to wait like a year for the next part. That's where it's frustrating because of normal animation. Like you wait a week for the next episode and it's like, yeah, after 22 minutes, that's fine. You got another episode coming next week. But that's the only downside about these CW Seed animated shows. And I know I want to be pissed off when Constantine finally comes out and I start to watch that and get into it and then have to wait like forever for the next season. I want them to do more. Like, it's cool what they're doing, but they do them very, like, they're not as frequent as I'd like them to be. They've only done 2 seasons of Vixen, 1 of the Ray, and then Constantine is coming up, and I think they should kick more of those out.
I want to see that. I mean, I remember hearing talk of like them of making a Ghostbusters animated movie. Do you remember that from a while ago?
I don't know.
You don't remember any of that?
There'd been a lot of talk about Ghostbusters stuff. And
I would have really liked to see it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because there's like a comic book series that I've read some of, and I really like the animation style.
Yeah.
The way that they are drawn, and they're written really well too.
Yeah. All right. So, so that's the end of everything. That's all we got to talk about.
There is no Nerdiverse, only Zool.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. All right. Well, Zool, if you like this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe to the Amazing Nerdiverse on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher app, and leave us a review. This is the most important thing you can do to help us out and help people find this show. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment down below. Share the show with your friends on social media. We're on Facebook.com/TheAmazingNerdiverse. On Instagram, we're at Amazing Nerdiverse. And on Twitter, I'm at Jeff_Grants.
I'm at Steven Tukert.
And we are at Nerdiverse Pod. And finally, go to TheAmazingNerdiverse.com for all that and very little more. And until next time, I'm Jeff Grants.
I'm Steven Tukert.
We'll catch you right here next time in The Amazing Nerdiverse.
Hit 'em. Tell me, are you a pod?
When someone asks if you're a pod.
And scene.